cigars along the way, and it was funny because as music turned into a bit more of a work obligation, a bit more because it was a school obligation, my my away time, my downtime, was spent smoking cigars with my friends. It was my favorite thing to do when I wasn't playing drums. So it was sort of a no-brainer that I tried to find a job in the cigar business because it was rooted from the same place as my passion for music, which is it's something that I love. It's something that's not work for me because I enjoy it so much. I can do it with other people. I can share it with people. It's always new. Even if it's the same thing over and over, it's always new. And so they both sort of fed that same piece, and so I've tried to maintain them both as best as I can.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting with the music aspect of it. Whenever I think of music and with cigars, always Pete Johnson. That's first person that comes to my mind.
But I'll tell you, it's amazing how many musicians are in this business. I mean, crazy, crazy. Besides Pete, you have Ernesto Perez Carrillo, Nick Perdomo. I mean, there's so many talented musicians. Rob Wright from Camacho is a great sax player. I mean, it's unbelievable. We have like a full big band. You know, if we just figured out how to put it together for a trade show.
Avo. Yeah, you have Avo. Yeah.
Yeah, Avo, of course. Yeah.
But
no, it's really it's amazing.
Yeah. It really sounds interesting. That'd be kind of neat to get together for a gig sometime. That would be pretty cool. But now, what's the like you told her you worked with Davidoff and now you're over at Nat Sherman. What are some of the differences you can see with the different styles of, everybody thinks Davidoff cigars and, you think the Mercedes, Lamborghini, Ferrari, and when you say Nat Sherman, people are thinking, at least I do, I think more of a working man's cigar.
Yeah, I think it's, I think one of the easiest mistakes to make is to try to make the brand what you want it to be instead of embracing what it is. And with Davidoff was always positioned, at least through my experience since I was with the company, as a luxury brand. Very, very specifically luxury. The other brands within the portfolio were positioned differently. So Avo Griffins, Zeno Classic, Private Stock, those brands are clearly positioned for a different audience. But Davidoff as a brand and as a company was always positioned and rooted in this luxury tradition.
Right.
Nat Sherman is precisely what you say, which is it's always been accessible. It's always been accommodating. When you look at the history of what Nat Sherman was, Nat Sherman has been around since 1930, and it was born in a lobby shop of 1400 Broadway, and it was positioned to be exactly that, to make sure that they had something for everyone. I mean, there's famous stories where customers would walk in to buy something at 1400 Broadway. If they didn't have it, Nat Sherman would keep the guy busy while he sent someone out the back to go buy it somewhere else just to get it back in the store to sell it to the guy, because it was all about accommodation. And if you look at how our cigarette business was developed, it was developed out of an accommodation. It was for a cigar smoker who was told that he couldn't smoke cigars on airplanes anymore, and he asked Nat if he could make him a cigar that was a cigarette. And first, I believe the story goes that he just wrapped white paper around a cigar and handed it back to him, and he tried that for a little while. But from that came our cigarette business. But again, it's rooted in service, it's rooted in accommodation, it's rooted in something for everyone, and it's important to embrace that as now we're sort of developing this new chapter of what the brand is. So rather than trying to force a luxury direction or force one for all kind of idea, this is sort of, it's already there for us. We just need to embrace it. So I think your analogy is exactly right, Mike. I think, it is sort of the everyman cigar. And what's important for us is that we maintain that consistency of every man and every woman for that matter, in all the things that we do. So our retail store, when you come into the townhouse, the townhouse is welcoming. It's accommodating. There's places for you to sit. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't more exclusive aspects to it, because there have to be. We have to create some aspiration in order to move within the different experiences. So whether the Nat Sherman experience is the townhouse or whether the Nat Sherman experience is our products, it's important that everyone can afford it. Everyone deserves the right and ability to enjoy both the townhouse and the products, but it's also important that we create the aspirational piece so that there's somewhere to go and there's some way to experience the brand differently as you move. So if you think of Padron, I think they're another great example of when you just think Padron, Padron is for everybody, right? You can get a sensationally delicious cigar for $4, but they've also got a family which is $44. Now, Padron is Padron, and it's still intended to be for everybody, but there is an aspirational ability to move within the brand and to find where you want to be for different occasions, for different reasons, but that has to exist, but it doesn't take away from what the root of the brand is, which is their family, their tradition, their ability to have something for everybody. Mm-hmm. That was a really long answer, bro. Sorry about that.
Nah, that's good. Hey, listen, we got plenty of time. As long as you got time, we got time. Go ahead.
I got it.
Speak it away, man. That's how our show goes. That's what it's all about. Let me ask you this. Let's get off of that a little bit. We'll throw it out there. What's the first cigar? You could either be a premium cigar or non-premium cigar that you ever smoked.
The very first cigar I ever tasted was the Ashton Classic Panatella at Cigar Masters in 1998. It was the first time I had ever drawn smoke into my mouth, ever. Mm-hmm. From there, the first cigar I ever smoked in its entirety was an H. Upmann Corona, around the same time. And then I was really on a budget, so there used to be a cigar called Vuelta Abajo, which was, if I'm not mistaken, it was made by Consolidated, or the old Altadis team. And from what I remember, it was a pretty tasty little smoke, but I know I could get that Robusto and a coffee at Cigar Masters for $6. And that was about my budget on a Wednesday night. So I lived in that world for a while. And then I used to really move around from there, from Griffins. Griffins had sort of just come out and cool. And but the very, very first was Ashton Classic, and then that H. Upmann after that, and then I journeyed.
Cool. Well, why don't we get into a little bit, Mike? Why don't you tell people a little bit about some of the Nat Sherman lines that you have, just to give them some information and some background on some that may not know. I'm smoking the Metropolitan Maduro, the Banker, which is a 5x70, and Mike's smoking just the regular Metropolitan, right? Not the Maduro, right? So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about them, and we'll go from there.
Well, a couple of things that I think is really important to bring up first and foremost, and that is that historically the route to market for Nat Sherman has been via two platforms. One was via our retail store in New York City, and the second, for the last current history, 8 years or so, has been through Santa Clara, which is a division of JR. And so by default, Nat Sherman cigars have ended up in catalogs, sensationally discounted, and that just is what it is. The first thing on my agenda when I joined, in the interest of being able to get back into brick and mortar stores and protecting the retailer, because we have a profound sensitivity to retailers because we're also a retailer, we eliminated that route to market via Santa Clara. And so with that change comes a few things. To the consumer, they're going to experience a perceived price increase, not because the prices have been increased, but because the ability to purchase at such a tremendous discount is being eliminated. because that's not fair to retailers. So to that end, we're also going to see the discontinuance of some of the Nat Sherman lines that were proprietary to Santa Clara and JR. We're no longer going to continue those. So we're in a little bit of a flux right now because we have our very traditional lines that we're going to maintain. We have new lines that we're developing, but we also have this sort of leftover period, which is just going to be transitionary as some of the lines go away out of the catalog route to market. So, for example, there's some lines called the 1400 series, the Omerta, which are quite popular, but directly via JR. Those ultimately are going to be discontinued. So you may still find those online, and you may find them at great prices. So they may be worth going to find because they're very tasty cigars. But for the long-term strategy of positioning the brand to the retailer and the consumer, it's important that we realign ourselves. So some of those are going to go away. The brands that are going to stay from the full distribution standpoint are the Metropolitan series and the Host series. So the Metropolitan series is what you guys are smoking right now. Mike, you have the Metropolitan Natural, and Mike, you have the Metropolitan Maduro. And you're both smoking Bankers, which are massive 70 ring gauge cigars. Interestingly enough, though, I don't think they're ass kickers, right? I mean, they're pretty mellow, well done smokes. Both of those cigars are made by Matassa, always have been. And what I like to say about this particular line, this Metropolitan line, is it's really a snapshot to the 90s. You know, what's great about cigars is cigars are non-vintage, right? So the idea is that when a blend is created, it's maintained. So if you've ever smoked a Fonseca Classic, Fonseca Classic, or even an Ashton Classic is another great example. Ashton Classic is such a popular representation of what cigars were like as the boom was really coming into effect in the mid to late 90s, wrapping up in the late 90s and early 2000s. But you know, it was commonplace that you had a blend with two wrappers, one natural, one Maduro. And so that's what the Metropolitan represents. That Metropolitan is great blend, classically medium bodied, one with a Connecticut shade, true Connecticut shade, and one with Connecticut broadleaf. But medium bodied, smooth, easy, great sizes. You could smoke them all day long. Those are all going to remain as is. There's also the Host series. The Host series is our #1 selling line at the moment. And the Host series is made by Camacho. And it's in fairness, it's a polished Baccarat style cigar. So it's Honduran, but if anyone's ever smoked a Baccarat, you know, there's that sweet cap that they apply after the cigar is rolled, which is kind of a cool experience. I used to buy Host series when I came to New York and just hung out. It's an interesting cigar. It's got great flavor. An interesting thing to do, by the way, is to cut off more than you should, but by cutting off an inch, you remove the sweetened cap, and it gives you an opportunity just to taste the blend without that sweetened cap, and then cut normally for your next one and smoke it with. But it's a great cigar. It's a crowd pleaser, and for retailers, there hasn't been that experience available to them to sell for a long time because all of those cigars, the Host series and the Baccarat, have all been going via catalogs and have all been severely discounted. So a retailer's never been incentivized to carry it and get behind it. So again, part of our strategy now is and we understand that short term this is going to affect volume, but it really is a long-term strategy for us to put our eggs in the retailer basket, to let them know that we support them as a company born from a retailer, and that we want them to support our products, and we're going to support them with them. So we have Metropolitan, Natural, Maduro, and we have the Host series. Those lines remain. We also have the Nats, and the Nats are a great little tin cigarillo, pack 20, classic Sumatra style mini cigarillo. But I was blown away with how many we sell. I had no idea the volume, and they really are great. But classic little machine-made cigarillos. But we did just launch a new product in the store, which is coming to market first quarter, probably in January, called the Nat Point 5. And for the Nat Point 5, they're little medium filler petite Coronas that have a hand-rolled binder and filler, one with broadleaf, one with true Connecticut shade, and they do require cutting, but they come in 5-packs. I think they're about $15 or something for the 5-pack, and they're slamming. I mean, they're just so great. It's the perfect. We've been saying that we're trying to redefine what a New York minute is, and this is the project that we're going to do that with. It's great for, you know, a 1-block jaunt across town, or just to sit with an espresso, have something with great flavor, and then move on. So those are very exciting. And then really the last thing, which has been my biggest push, is the Timeless collection. So the Timeless collection I'm very excited about because of how we've done its development. We really, again, going back to our origins, we're a retailer. First and foremost, we were a retail shop since 1930, and everything that says Nat Sherman on it was developed in response to a customer's need for something. So with the realignment of our route to market, it was important that we bring retailers back into the creative piece so that they can have some ownership on making sure that they have a product that they can sell to their consumers. So I joined on June 1st. June 2nd, I had emails out to 4 manufacturers. That's not true. 5 manufacturers in 3 countries looking for what they felt would be their expression of what a new Nat Sherman experience is. And that was my only instruction. So we got a bunch of stuff back from a whole bunch of folks, and we went to the trade show with 7 different cigars. 3 from Nicaragua, 4 from the Dominican Republic. All they were coded, and inside each packet from each country were tasting cards, and the information on those cards were analyzing strength, flavor, aroma, combustion, all those different things, but also asking, how do you want these cigars packed? What do you want to sell them for? And asking really behind the scenes question to be sure that when we do finally come to market, we're coming to market with something that retailers wanted to create for their customers. So it's actually, we just had some arrive yesterday to the townhouse, and we had a little bit of a backlog on box production. As you know, most companies shut down for Christmas for almost a month in the Dominican, Honduras, etc. So we didn't get the box production in. It wasn't something that we were willing to rush. So cigars are done and aging. I'm actually going to send some to you guys. I didn't get a chance to get them to you before this show, but I am going to follow up with you guys so that you can taste some of these, because I think you're going to dig them a lot. But ultimately, so Timeless collection, total new look. Let me see if I got, yeah, there we go.
Yep, we can see it.
Nice.
Totally new look. This particular round by retailer vote was actually by Matassa as well. So that was exciting because we already worked with them. We came down to 2 blends that Matassa had done that were the overwhelming favorites of the retailer survey. So we went back and tweaked those just a touch. I'm getting a call from the Dominican Republic right now, by the way. Work never stops. So we tweaked 2 of the winning blends and brought those back for survey, and one really stood out as awesome. So it's a Honduran wrapper, a Dominican binder, and Dominican and Nicaraguan fillers. The Nicaraguan we use Ligero. On the Dominican fillers, they're mostly taken from Seco and a little Volato. The binder is taken from Seco for sure, and the wrapper is Seco, but slightly higher, could be Viso, I don't remember. But so it's super complex. It still has great body, but it's not, again, it's not an ass kicker. It's not meant to hurt anybody. It's meant to be, you know, rich and pleasant. So there's 4 sizes, from a 3 3/4 by 43 little petite Corona to a Robusto 5 1/4 by 52 to a Torpedo Classic Monty 2 format and Classic Churchill, and price range is from $6 to $8.
Nice, that's good price range.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, what was the whole and the whole concept of the timeless? What was your goal behind blending that timeless? Was there a particular goal to change things up, to
Yeah,
get people
well, I
who haven't
think
smoked it to try it?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, having a retail background with Davidoff and still overseeing the retail operations for Nat Sherman, you know, everybody wants their cigars in the store's humidor. Period. They wanted them in the Davidoff stores. They want them in the Nat Sherman stores. And my difficulty has always been that if we're going to bring in something new, it can't be a new band. If we're going to bring in something new, it has to be a new experience. And, you know, there are a tremendous number of awesome cigars out there. But when you start looking within cigar makers and within cigar factories, there tend to be a bit of repetition or a bit of familiarity from one brand to another brand. And what can you do? It's resources. You know, if you have these particular tobaccos in your inventory and you're making cigars for 15 people, there are going to be shared things that are going to have similar characteristics. So I'm not saying that they're identical, but there are a lot of similarities between different brands. And as a retailer, it becomes very challenging to continue to dedicate real estate to such a similar experience. So what was paramount from the beginning, to satisfy my own obligation, is to be sure that the ultimate experience, the way it actually tastes and burns, is unique by itself, and that it doesn't taste like anything else in the humidor. The next important thing was to smoke through what already existed within our portfolio, to understand what they brought to the table, to make sure we don't repeat anything in our own line. So understanding sort of the real guts of all the existing Nat Sherman blends and understanding the way they smoke and the way they feel was critical. And then so once we did that, we knew that we needed to be in the medium to medium plus category from a body standpoint. We needed to capture some of the more earthy, darker type flavors, for sure, because that really didn't exist in our lines. And then to sort of at the same time make sure that we have something that from a price perspective will remain true to our ethics as a brand, which is accessible and that everyone can enjoy. And so it was with sort of that direction that we went into this project. And, you know, we smoked things from full-bodied aggressive and make you want to vomit to creamy, medium, and super smooth and velvety. And directionally, we found that we could go in that fuller category. But I think you'll find when you fire one of these up that there is a great balance, which is critical for me.
Not sure what happens. Again, it's trying to take over control of everything we are, and sometimes things happen. But we're back. If it happens, just stick with us. We'll get it back rolling. Mike took his call from the DR, so it worked out good. We all went and took a piss, so it's even better. And let's get this ball rolling back on there. Michael, let me ask you this. Matt's got a question. For someone that's never tried a Nat Sherman cigar, which one would you recommend that they tried first to get a feeling of your brand?
Well, I think we're in a really interesting time right now, because directionally we're making changes. So I think if, again, with cigars being non-vintage, you get to experience snapshots of history for a company. and you can understand where they came from. And I think it's important to understand where brands come from, so you understand where they're going. So I would recommend that you check out all of them. But I would do it in the following order. I would try the Metropolitan series first, because it's such a classic snapshot of, that Ashton style, the Fonseca style, the classic Dominican style of cigar.
Yep.
I would then check out some of our proprietary lines that are made just for the townhouse. We have a line called the Gotham series, and it's actually made by Altadis, but because it's such small production, we could get a little more creative with the blending. And there's a blend called the Gotham West Side, which uses an awesome Modafina wrapper, and I think that's a really nice in between to sort of taste the fact that the company was making some changes. And then ultimately, I'd love for you to taste the Timeless collection, because besides the fact that I'm really proud of it, it showcases what the new direction is, and so I would recommend those.
Okay, great. Mike, you got anything you want to shoot away here? I feel like I've been running the show, stealing it or something.
Yeah, I've been working with the technical aspects here, trying to get this thing smoothly running and watching all the figures. It's fun over here. Yes, I did. Now I just totally forgot about it. Oh, you had said about the ass kicker cigars, with smoking. Do you think that they have a place with Nat Sherman, or do you see that as something as just a fad that's going to fade away?
Well, again, I have two obligations to the company. One is to oversee the retail experience. One is to oversee the brand experience. So on the retail experience, we have ass kickers, and it's important that I have them, because as a retail store, and again, staying true to who we are, we need to have something for everybody, and that experience is still a very valid experience, and I'm in the mood for them once in a while. So it's important that we have them. I'm not sure that there's a place within the Nat Sherman brand for something that is so linear and so specific.
Right.
Because I don't think that it's necessarily in keeping with our ethics as a brand that we would have something so ferocious, at least as a regular line. Maybe we do a special edition, something that's fuller bodied, but just in the spirit of what a cigar should be, there's always a need for some balance, some sense of savoriness and sophistication. And so if the cigar is just blindingly strong without flavor, I don't see a real need for that in the shop, or certainly with a Nat Sherman name on it.
Okay. Well, why don't we change up gears a little bit, Mike? We know that you're a while ago you went to Napa Valley, I believe, to a winery.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell us about that, and tell us how it correlates for you with cigars? Why don't we get into that a little bit?
I have a lot of friends in the wine business, and one of my dearest friends is a guy named Andrew Bell, who's the president of the American Sommelier Association. And if you go to americansommelier.com, you can check out what he does. But he really does an amazing job educating some consumers, but mostly wine professionals, about everything about wine, so that they can become sommeliers. It's interesting when you look at, from a development standpoint, how wine works. When you look at the influence of soil, when you look at the influence of irrigation and climate, and how vulnerable a vintage can be year to year, there are a lot of similarities with our industry as well. And I guess the classic wine concept being a vintage industry, the pressure that these folks are under, because they can't fake anything.
Right.
So if they have a bad year, they still have to come up with a way to make great wine.
Right.
So they make less of it. But it's an interesting business to start to understand, both from a manufacturing standpoint, but also from a marketing standpoint, And then also from a consumption standpoint, you know, how does the consumer deal with the ebbs and flows of the wine business from a manufacturer that they love? Another dear friend of mine is Fred Schrader. Fred's wines are among the best rated cabs, record breaking as far as 100-point wines per vintage from Wine Spectator and Robert Parker. But so this guy sells out his wines before they're even made, and yet, you know, he would love to sell more, but he just can't because he's limited by, you know, if a particular year sucks, there's just not enough juice to go around. And so, you know, then he has to stay true and look at the way they make choices of how do we limit the allocation? Do we increase the price? Do we keep the price? You know, it's an interesting industry to parallel to our industry.
Do you have a favorite wine and cigar pairing?
The one I'm enjoying when you ask me. But I will tell you, and we talk about this a lot, you know, I enjoy a wine pairing with cigars for the specific reason that it's so easy to pair a cognac or pair a single malt or something, but the alcohol content is so high in those types of spirits that it arguably erases the flavor of the cigar from your palate. So you have a dialogue, but it's a back and forth dialogue. It's not a married conversation when you use a very, very high alcohol spirit. So listen, I love drinking single malts. Sometimes I don't want a conversation. I want a single malt and a cigar. I really don't care if they go together because I'm enjoying them at the same time.
Right. All right, everybody, you see us, you hear us. We all right? We're dead. We're quiet. You're back. All right. Man, I'm telling you, I don't know what's going on. We're both perplexed, but for some reason, it seems like everything's eating up the CPU usage on Mikey's end, and I don't know. We're going to keep trying. As long as the chat's open, we'll keep going. Just hang in there with us.
Now,
you know, we appreciate it. We're sorry for everything.
I will say, if anybody noticed, I don't know, I did lower the screen resolution for the broadcast, so I'm not sure if any of you were watching in full screen. I don't know if you noticed any difference or not, but I cut it in half to see if we can try to salvage something here.
All right. Yeah, we're trying to salvage you guys, so hang in there. So let's get back before some shit happens again and we can't get
And I
this
apologize,
thing.
Michael. I really do. I honestly do not know what's going on with this today.
No problem. You just got to have me on again. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
We'll definitely make sure we do that, Michael. And again, we apologize to you for appreciate your patience. But
not at all.
Why don't we get into something that I know you're pretty passionate about? I see you tweeting about it all the time. But why don't we get into a little bit of all the regulations that are being put on the tobacco industry and how it's affecting you as a manufacturer and how it's affecting? Does it hurt your end with the consumer end with the taxes so high and the regulations on?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my relationship now to the government piece of the industry has changed quite a bit because I see the influence from a consumer standpoint from my customers. I see the influence on the manufacturing side now as far as how you import, and also now I get to see a little bit of the cigarette side because of the full Nat Sherman business. Right. And you know, none of it is good. I mean, you know, it's all just really challenging to handle. And you know, while there's certainly a need for regulation and restricting from a health standpoint and just an overall, you know, making sure that people who want to be around it can be around it and those who don't want to be around it don't have to be around it. I don't think you'll find, particularly at least with premium cigar smokers, any major objection. I don't think any of us feel like we should have the right to walk into a nursery school smoking cigars. I mean, come on.
Yep.
So, you know, I think it hurts the premium cigar smoker so much because, for the most part, we're all really respecting folks. You know, when you look at New York as an example, New York has a 75% OTP tax,
Mm-hmm.
and we're surrounded by states that are lower.
Yep.
And you know, generally speaking, when it happens in exactly. Thank you. What happens in New York is going to happen everywhere.
Yep.
Eventually. So there's really, really strong efforts from the New York side to really get this tax situation under control. And so a few years ago, we formed the New York Tobacconists Association group. Ron Melendi from Della Concha has been unbelievable in sort of spearheading that organization. And you know, it's just we're really trying to fight the fight to not have things just go away, but just to do things reasonably. Mm-hmm. You know, because at this point we're talking about a product that's still legal, and as long as it's still legal, then we need to be able to play competitively so that we can all make a living.
Right.
So you know, there's a lot happening, and you know, ultimately, what I can tell you is between OTP issues, the FDA issues, which are huge.
Yes.
You know, this is a really, really critical time for our industry. And you always see people tweeting and Facebooking and blogging about call your representative, call your senator, call your congressman. Let me tell you, it works. I mean, it really, really works. And a lot of people read it and say, well, you know, what difference does it make from me if everyone else is doing it? It takes every single person to write a letter and make a phone call and send an email and do it over and over and over again, because it works. It really, really works. And we're talking about folks who are voted for.
Yep.
And if they see the potential of their loss on an election, they're going to do something.
You're right.
And so, you know, if I can stress anything, it really is that, you know, we have the ability as consumers to actually make a change.
Yep.
So with this FDA regulation coming in for the House and the Senate, there's bills. We need sponsors. If you go to Cigar Rights, follow the instructions on Cigar Rights website and do it every day. You know, if we all have an hour to sit down and smoke a cigar every day, we can at least spend 5 minutes of that doing something to make sure that we can continue spending the hour smoking.
Absolutely.
Because eventually the anti-industry folks are only here to put us out of business, period. And then they're going to find something else to do, and something else to hate, and something else to lobby for.
Yep.
So for them, they just want to win. For us, we just want to enjoy our lives.
Right.
So it takes an effort from everybody to pick up the phone, send an email, host an event, go visit a member of Congress, invite them for a cigar, and let them understand why this is different.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, if the FDA has their way with it, I mean, you're not going to be able to mention anything about your cigars. The bloggers who enjoy doing what they're doing, they're not even going to be able to mention anything about cigars. I mean, they're really limiting your lifestyle. They're taking it away. If this is your lifestyle, which most of us who are here, it's something that we enjoy, and the camaraderie and the passion behind it, they're going to take it away from you. And like you said, once they're done with us, they're going to go on to the next thing. And it could be something else that you're passionate about. Who knows? But we definitely you gotta stand up. I know I've done it. I've spoken to Kristen Gillibrand. I've sent letters and emails because it's got to stop. It's out of control.
And it's easier than you think, right? It's easy to do. It sounds crazy. How do I talk to a congressperson? It's pretty simple.
Right. It took me a whole maybe a minute, a minute. That's all it took. And I'll tell you what, I've gotten 4 responses back. Now, whether something will happen or not, we'll find out. We'll see. But you're right. A lot of people, as humans, we sit here and go, oh, man, I don't have the time for that. Well, you do have the time. And if you're really passionate about what you do and what you enjoy in this industry, you got to do something. The more of us together, the better chance we have. And I totally agree with you. And Barry's right. You know, a lot of sites don't mention it, and we take things for granted, and we need not to. So
and I think I love Barry. I think Barry, is a great example of how important the organization is, because for a long time he didn't get it, and
he didn't.
He was not a huge supporter of it.
Yep.
Once he saw the importance of it, Now he's the biggest lobbyist for it, and Barry's a great example of everyone who can be, just a little bit skeptical. Is it
Sure.
really worth it? Is it really doing it? But it is absolutely worth it. And the bottom line is there is no consumer organization more powerful right now in our industry than the CRA.
Absolutely.
So there's just no excuse. If you spend money on premium cigars, then you should spend the money to join the CRA, because they are working hard. Glenn Loop and his team, who are so great, are on the road all the time, state to state, in Washington, D.C., fighting for us. The least we can do is join, throw them some bucks, and let them know that we appreciate them fighting on our behalf.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And, we just lost your video for a quick second there. Did you see that? That popped back up, though, but we're good.
Yeah, it blinked before a couple times, but he came back. We're doing good now.
Yeah, we are. Definitely, though, Michael. I agree with you 100%. Everybody out there listening, or anybody who watches this on our site, definitely go over to CRA. Definitely get a hold of your congressperson, and definitely fight for your right, because before you know it, if you don't, it's going to be gone. And then what are you going to have to live for? So besides your wife, but some people in the chat room probably say no. So anyways, what do you got, Mike? You got anything? I know you've been crazy. I feel like I'm running the show. I feel like I'm hogging it from you, but I know you're busy trying to keep us up and running. So you got anything you want to ask Michael before? I don't want to keep you too much longer, Mike. I know it's been messed up.
Hey,
we will get you back on.
Great, and I want to be sure that if people have questions that are chatting, we make sure that we answer them.
Yeah, and I think we'll do something too. We'll put up on the website if anybody has questions. We'll keep them and I would definitely want to have you back on the show.
Absolutely.
And so we can hopefully get you on a show where we don't have all these glitches and missing footage and everything else. I feel really bad about that.
We'll figure it out, no problem.
But no, I mean, my main question was going to be, with the taxes. I'm here in Pennsylvania, and we have 0 cigar tax.
You suck, by the way.
And, it's always nice to wave at our neighbors to the north, and say, ha. But, it's a problem. They've tried it here in Pennsylvania. And the only thing that Pennsylvania has going for it are the CIs, the Holts, the Atlantic Cigar, all these online retailers basically tell the state.
And it's why they're there.
Yeah.
They are in Pennsylvania for exactly that refuge.
Well,
and you can't blame them.
And they tell them, they say, if you decide to implement the cigar tax in Pennsylvania, we're going to close up shop and we're moving to Florida.
Yeah, exactly.
And all those jobs will be lost and everything else. So
it looks like we're in a pretty good shape for our state to get a tax cap.
Yeah.
So, for anyone who's watching or listening in New York, now more than ever, make sure that you pick up the phone and call someone to voice your favoritism for the cap.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Matt's got a question I want to ask you. When looking for retail partners, you mentioned you look for folks that would sell it properly and talk about it properly. Why don't you explain what you mean by that, if you don't mind?
Looking for retail partners, meaning a retailer.
Yes, a retailer. Yep.
It's unfortunate, but I know that that my peers in the industry agree that unfortunately, while we have an incredible community of great retailers who are passionate about their business, who love sharing knowledge and teaching people and moving them through what they're so proud to buy in stock, there are a handful of retailers that prefer to show up to work, unlock the door, sit in a chair, drink a coffee, watch TV, and ring people out. And that doesn't serve any brand well. If that's how you run business, then more power to you. But what I don't ever want is for our products not to sell well. And I don't ever want to, because I sympathize with the position of having inventory that's not moving, I want to be sure that we never put a retailer in a position where they have to bring in product that they can't sell. So especially as we sort of now, since we're out of the Santa Clara piece, and we're moving towards our own sales team for now via our facility in Greensboro that we really build this the right way. You know, I'm not looking to sell 15 million cigars. You know, this is really about making sure that we can get behind retailers that get behind us, and that we can get behind retailers who embrace the same ethics that we do as a retailer. Fair pricing, customer service, educating your customers. You know, it's so critical to being a great retailer, that I just want to make sure that we're just growing the right way.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. Actually, I just got a question popped into our email in Stogie 411. And let's see who it's from. It says Yathan Nasais. I don't know. I can't even pronounce it. I'm not going to butcher the person's name. But anyway, he's got a question that says, did Nat Sherman discontinue the Dakota cigar? I've been searching for it for 10 years.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
It was that was a line. If my memory is correct, based on what I've researched. Again, I got 6 months on, so
right.
There's been a lot of coming and going of brands. If I recall, that was part of a line in the 90s that was made by General. But as far as I know, it's certainly not something that is in current production, and it's not something that's scheduled to be put back in production. So I can only assume that it's out of production and probably will not be put back in.
Okay, cool. Well, we got his question. Anybody got any questions in there?
But to that person that asked that question, what I'd love to know, and you can email me, Herklots@natsherman.com. I'd love to know what you liked about it, so I can recommend something else for you. Because I don't want to say that we don't have anything that you're going to enjoy. So if you would send me an email and let me know what you really liked about it, and that way I can help point you in another direction.
I'll send you his email, Michael. So you have it. I'll forward it to you right now with the question, so you can get in touch with him. For now, so does anybody have any questions? Because I know we're running a little bit over, and we had some glitches here, but we want to make sure we can get your questions into Michael before he takes off anywhere. He said, "Oh, here we go. PJC's got one. Love the Gotham. Is it staying in the TEH lineup?"
Yeah, it is staying in. Gotham series is proprietary to the store. So the east side and the west side will both remain as current productions for the townhouse. As we grow our distribution a bit, we may allow some retailers to sell the product as well. But again, it's not going to be something that we put a huge amount of effort in. Right now, we're really focusing our effort on Host and Metropolitan and the Timeless Collection. The Gotham series, if you're interested in it, you can certainly find in our townhouse store. Just give us a call, send an email, and we'll send it out to you.
Okay, great. You want to take a few from the chat room, Mike?
Yeah, John G just asked. He's a big New York Giants fan. He goes, which Nat Sherman is their preferred cigars? Seems like a weird question, but Michael would understand.
For the Giants, so Nat Sherman has had a relationship with the Giants for years. We've been season ticket holders since forever. One of the two coolest things we do with the Giants, one is we have a machine called the Nat Sherman Gator, and it's a John Deere Gator that has been custom fitted with a $30,000 Vigilant humidor on the back, and we take this thing all over the place. But specifically, we take it to home games when Giants are home, and we tailgate with this thing. And so we drive it through all the parking lots for hours, selling Nat Sherman cigars out of the back. Also with the Giants, every time a touchdown is scored, Bob Papa on the radio yells out to make sure we give that man a Nat Sherman cigar. And that's been the case for a long, long time. As far as what they like, they pretty much like everything we give them. But I will tell you that that in the next round of stuff going to the Giants, we had some requests for people wanting to try the new Timeless. And so we should have those together and send those off. But usually Metropolitan is the go-to for them. Metropolitan Natural.
There you go.
I believe Cigar Lifter's got a question, but I believe you answered. I could be wrong. You want to know when's the Timeless coming out? Did you say January, I believe?
Timeless. So right now in the store, probably Monday, we'll have Timeless out available as single cigars. The box production, again, got a little delayed because of the holiday schedule in the Dominican Republic. But we should have boxes stocked and ready to rock and roll, both in our store as well as your local store, by middle of January. So be sure that you talk with your local tobacconist about setting up an account with us, and we'll make sure we open them up and hopefully do some events and stuff in all the local areas.
And Matt has a question. This is one I was thinking of asking, and everything just blew up on me, and I totally forgot about it. You had said about Nat Sherman's taking back distribution, and you want to, the brick and mortars rather than the online sales and things. Now, will you still allow the online or catalog sales if they stay at your MSRP?
Yeah, we basically entered into a new agreement with our retailers. So specifically with the Host series and the Metropolitan series, those products will be available to catalog internet retailers. However, they are restricted at a maximum 10% discount, which is pretty standard now for contract brands. The Timeless collection, though, will remain a brick and mortar for the foreseeable future. So that product will not be available to those particular retailers. The Timeless collection is just going to be launched via brick and mortar stores initially, and I have no major plans to put that into a major discount house at all, because we just don't make enough of it.
Okay.
And you want to take the last one?
Well, we got one here from Paul Carlo. He's joined the chat room. Michael, he wants to know. He said he knows the Johnson room is full. Are you still accepting memberships? Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, we have a 3-story townhouse store on 42nd Street in Midtown. It's a sensational place. We did a few changes with me coming over as far as just using all the space better. As you can imagine, rent on 42nd Street isn't cheap, so we need to make sure that we allocate space accordingly. And so basically what we have is on the main floor when you walk in from 42nd Street, we've now got 2 lounge areas that are set up and available to the public at any time to come in and enjoy a cigar. And we even have some overflow seating on the mezzanine level if needed. That's where the core business happens, and it's the most exciting place to be. We have a private club called the Johnson Club Room, which is in the basement. And that's been part of the tradition of the townhouse since it opened. We are maintaining it as a private club. We've changed some of the economics of being a member, and there is still some membership available. We just opened up a few lockers this past month. So Paul, you know how to get in touch with me for sure. Reach out and let me know if that's something you're interested in, or anybody else, and we can go over the economics, and we'd love to have you come by.
Cool. There you go, Paul. There's your answer. Well, let's get to, we got 2 more questions we always like to end it on, and we'll end it on those 2 questions with you, Michael, and then we'll let you go. We know you're moving, and again, we want to thank you so much for your patience and understanding, and we'll definitely get you back on. But 2 quick last questions. One question we ask everybody: bloggers, love them or hate them?
Love them.
Okay.
Can I expand?
You absolutely can. Go.
Great.
Time's up. No.
You know, I say this a lot with our salespeople, and I had an interesting conversation with Ernesto Carrillo and his son when they were developing the EPC concept and how to get information out and how to get word out and buzz out. And I love bloggers, I really do. What troubles me sometimes is the instant notion that one is an expert just because you've found a passion for cigars.
Yep.
And you know, when I think back, first of all, I've been in the business since 1998, and I'm by no means an expert. I mean, there's so much still for me to learn, and I feel pretty good about what I've got. But there's so much for me to learn, and you know, particularly when you speak to some of the guys who have put the industry where it is. I mean, the real guys, the Manuel Casadas, the Benji Menendez, Henke Kellner. You know, we're talking about godfathers of industry. These guys would never even present themselves as experts because it's a, you know, we're an organic industry. It's always changing, and you know, when you have conversations with these guys, everyone's asking more questions than giving answers. Everyone's always afraid to give an answer, but everyone always wants to ask a question because they want to be sure they've got it right. And I feel fortunate that I was able to make my bones in this business before the internet really took over. I mean, it was, you know, there were 2 bulletin boards. Cigar Aficionado had just launched their website, you know, so at least the information that was available to me was very, very focused and was credible. Mm-hmm. But now with the Google factor, you know, if I punch in a question searching about, you know, a Cameroon rapper, the chances of me finding information is 100%, but my chances of finding exactly the right information is now challenging because, you know, who do you ask?
Right.
You know, I'd love to ask the Mirafel family. Well, the Mirafel family's not on Twitter, and they don't have a blog, right. You know, and so if they're not asking the source, then you have a whole lot of people who are learning something here, learning something there, misunderstanding it, turning that into a different answer for the wrong question, but then memorializing it. Yeah. And when it's memorialized, it becomes fact, whether it's right or not. Right. And so that piece challenges me. And so my only position is, while I love bloggers for their passion, and I love bloggers for their absolute dedication to an industry that generally they don't make a living in, I think that they have a tremendous obligation to verify their information. If you want to review something and you want to talk about the way you enjoy it, God bless. That's awesome. But if you're going to state something as fact, I think it's critical that you back it up.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you.
But ultimately, I love them.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I know I always say, because on my other site, I review cigars, and I always say it's just my opinion. Just because you know, I have my palate, you have your palate, everybody out there has their palate. And that's the nice thing, we all can enjoy different cigars. Not every cigar is for everyone. It's not going to be that way. But I always tell them, just because I either like it or may not like it, it's for me. This is my opinion. But go out and still try it, because you may enjoy it.
Our family patriarch now, Joel Sherman, I've been going back watching old interviews with him as we're working on our new website. Anyway, he says in almost every interview, and his father said it before him, there's only one expert in the cigar industry, and that's the person smoking the cigar.
I agree.
And that's it. And, you know, it's not for us to tell you this is the right way or the wrong way. This is a good cigar, bad cigar. It's what you enjoy. But there are things that are fact.
Right.
And it's important that for those things, we just, you know, do a little more research and back up the fact that it's true, or be sure that you disclose that it's your opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. Well, Mikey, why don't you know what questions we're going to ask last, right?
No idea.
No, all right.
I'm watching numbers and
make sure the damn show's running. We'll end it on this, Michael. We'll end this on this. When Cuban embargo, what effect, if any, do you think it'll have on the industry if it is lifted?
You've got a couple factors to think about. You have, number one, you have trademark issues. So the majority of every Cuban trademark is already owned in the United States of America. And the original ruling was that the United States would honor the pre-nationalization owners of those trademarks, which is why they all fled and they sold their cigar, and they made cigars under the same trademarks and used them in the United States. At this point, the majority of those trademarks are owned by 2 companies, Altadis and General. Altadis also has a controlling interest in Habanos. So assuming that the green light happens and then everything can happen all at once. I think that that for the Altadis-owned brands, you'll see a seamless introduction of those products into the United States. For the General Cigar-owned brands, there's going to have to be some legal agreement as far as if they are the distributor for those products in the U.S. I'm not sure how favorable Altadis is going to be to make sure that their brands get in as successfully as the Altadis brands do.
Right.
I think they have a pretty civil relationship, so I think they'll find a solution, but that's going to be challenging. The other piece that's interesting is whether, from a raw material standpoint, the Cubans will even allow their tobacco to be purchased by other manufacturers.
Right.
Because I've heard mixed things from manufacturers when I have this conversation with them. There are families now within our industry that grow outside of Cuba that still have close ties to Cuba that theoretically would be able to get that tobacco very easily. Whether, don't forget, a lift of an embargo doesn't change the lifting of a communist regime. Right. So they may say, great, you can sell our stuff, but we're not going to sell you our most important commodity for you to make it somewhere else, because it's worth more going out as a cigar than it is worth going out as raw tobacco.
Yep.
So that's going to be a challenge. Then the last piece of that is consumption and allocation. I think we're going to see a relative spike in consumption and a slight boom, not because cigar smokers are going to go crazy looking for Cuban cigars, but you're going to have a sensational interest from folks who don't smoke and have never smoked Cuban cigars, or have never smoked cigars, who are going to say, well, I've never smoked a cigar, but now the Cubans are available. Let me see what this is about. And I think from that, they're going to say, well, I didn't necessarily like that, but I liked the fact of the experience of enjoying a cigar. And then they're going to find, just like we all have, they're going to find what cigars they like better or worse from different manufacturers, etc. From an allocation standpoint, it's estimated that there's about 20 million Cuban cigars coming into the U.S. every year. And we all know we can all jump online and buy Cuban cigars in 35 seconds, and they're on our doorstep, no problem.
Right.
The U.S. market's the #1 cigar market in the world from a consumption and import standpoint. So there's going to have to be a sensational reallocation from the Cubans to satisfy the U.S. demand, and that's going to change the retail business from all these other companies all around the world that have been shipping to the U.S., which means that they're going to have to become competitive if they want to keep their U.S. customers, and they're in Switzerland. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Cubans reallocate to satisfy the U.S. demand, and if the U.S. customers will now go to their brick-and-mortar store, or will they continue to buy online through the relationships they've had for the last however many years? That's yet to be seen.
Right. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up, Michael, for us. And again, I want to apologize for all the drama that happened, and we're very grateful that you came on. It's a pleasure. I never got to talk to you or meet you, and we're looking forward to having you back on again, definitely.
I'd love to be back again, and please, for everyone, I mean, follow me on Twitter, find me on Facebook, and visit our store. If you're in New York City, you know, we have a townhouse there, and it really is, it's our home. We want you to come in. We invite you to our home and really enjoy the space and enjoy a cigar. So open invitation, and Merry Christmas to everybody.
Great. All right, Michael. Well, thanks a lot again, man, and we'll definitely be in touch as soon as you follow me, by the way, on Twitter.
Am I not?
No.
Really?
Yeah. I tried to DM you and it wouldn't go through. I'm like, son of a. But anyway.
As we speak.
Yeah, here. Thanks, buddy. Listen, have a nice Christmas, Michael. Thank you again, and we'll definitely hook up with dates for next year to have you back on the show.
Rock and roll.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Have a good one now.
Okay.
See ya.
I am alone
right.
here.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
And we won't be able to hear Mike for a while here, but anyway, I want to apologize again for the problems. I'll be switching back to having Mike join me here as soon as Skype releases that stupid little box they lit up there. I really wish they would get rid of that. It doesn't make any sense.
Matt says you can hear
Anyway,
me.
now he's there. What?
Says you can hear me but not see me. See you, Rich.
Shouldn't have been you. What?
I don't know. He says you can hear me but can't see me.
Shouldn't have been able to hear him.
I don't know.
You heard him on the
Well,
single
get the double shot
Oh,
up.
Jesus. Yeah, the double shot is up.
All right, guys. Well, listen, real quick. We have the giveaway here. I don't know if you could see it. From the last show, we had Pete Johnson on, and we said we had 2 giveaways, and this is the second part of the giveaway. It's got a couple Wolfmans in here, some Faustos, some LCCs, and some Avion, I believe. Anyways, so Mikey picked a number. The question was, tell us how many times during the show we said Tatawahe. Well, it was a little confusion because the show to us is to the final end even after we do this part. Some people took it the show was while Pete was still on. Anyways, so what we decided to do is we were going to take both. So there was 2 correct answers. The correct answers were 8 or 11. And so we decided that anybody that answered 8 and 11, they would be entered in to win. And we would pick a number. Mike picked the number. And the winner is, and I'm letting you know that Mike picked the number because the person who won is actually a good friend of mine. But Cigar Lifter, Daryl, you won. So when you bring your silly ass over here tomorrow, I don't have to pay shipping. I'll hand these to you. But you're the winner of the Tatawahe giveaway. And I want to thank everybody who entered that contest. And again, nice to see all the new faces on here. PJC, Niles, LOD. It was great to have you guys on. I appreciate you stopping by and giving support to us. It means a lot.
Yeah, especially with all the problems we had during the show.
Yeah, and you guys stuck around, so that's really good. But hopefully we'll have it fixed. We think we know what the problem is. It was the high def probably killing the CPU. We're just trying to get the best show out there, the best quality for you guys. And sometimes all the testing, everything looks good, and then you go live and the shit hits the fan, and that's what happened. But hopefully you guys like the chat room, the new chat room. Matt worked very hard on it. I want to thank Matt for everything he does for this show. It's he's a great partner to have on the show.
And also want to thank George Rodriguez from Rodrigo Cigars and Rich from East Coast Cigars for the sponsorship so we can be ad-free. And see, look, Rich left before I even got to say that. Look.
I know he's going to think we didn't say it. We got to start saying it earlier in the show.
Oh, I'm going to skip it the next show now. I'm going to say, I don't know who that rich guy is.
We definitely got to start saying it saying it earlier. Otherwise, our sponsorships will go away. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Oh, the next show will be next Saturday. That will be our last show of the year. We're running 2 shows back to back. And our next show will be next Saturday, 1 p.m. And I know, Barry, you're going to want to be on this show. You're going to want to be in the chat room, buddy. It's Victor Vitale from the Cigar Agency. He will be on. And we're also going to have a whole bunch of Christmas giveaways next week. I mean, a lot of Christmas giveaways we got going on in Stogie 411. So other than that, man, that's it. I appreciate everybody who comes to the chat room. Mikey, I appreciate everything you do as well. And Matt, another great show, and thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you soon, I guess. See yous.